Lady with the sombrero. Today's date is Tuesday, March 27th, 2018, and we are here for the regular meeting of the Coppell City Council. The time is 5:30, and I'll call the meeting to order. We will be moving into executive session. Thank you. Executive session was adjourned at 6:55, and we are moving into work session. Council members, please come into the room. There's one.
She's sneaking in. Is that what the race?
There's still Wes. We have there we go. We apologize. We are a couple of people short today, so we had to make sure everybody was here before we start the regular session. The time is 7:43, and we apologize for our tardiness. We call the regular session to order. We will start with the invocation. We have Michael McDowell, who is the Associate Fire Chaplain, who will help us with the invocation. And then I'll ask you to please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. The fire department will be presenting the colors, and we have Boy Scout Jacob Sims who will lead us in the pledge. So please stand.
Thank you. Please join with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we pray to thank you, Lord, for our city. God, we ask that you would bless our citizens here, our council and our administrators, and all who work to serve in this city. Lord, please watch over us. Keep us safe, Lord, and bless our families also as we try to do our best to serve. Lord, give us each the wisdom and guidance to see your way and to follow it. And please bless this meeting tonight. And we give you all the praise for all that you do for us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you very much. You may be seated. Mr. Griffin. Item 6, consider approval of a proclamation naming March 27th, the flag is in the way, 2018 as a Ken Griffin Appreciation Day and authorizing the mayor to sign. For those of you who don't recognize this gentleman, he has been with the city for quite a number of years, and he's decided to retire. So, council members, please consider this proclamation. Whereas Ken Griffin was hired by the city of Coppell in December 1991, when the city had a population of approximately 17,000 people, and there were approximately 250 employees. Whereas Ken served under 5 city managers and made countless presentations to city councils over his 26-year tenure. Whereas Ken was instrumental in completion of all phases of Sandy Lake Road reconstruction project from Carrollton to Grapevine, and the upgrade of the city's water system, adding ground and elevated storage tanks, and upsizing the water lines to move water throughout the city. And whereas Ken has been a leader and a mentor to many throughout the years of service and has been an exemplary representative of the engineering department and the organization as a whole. Whereas Ken, as a visionary, assisted in the transition from a sparsely developed suburban city to a much sought-after community of over 40,000 residents today. Whereas Ken worked with directors and managers to develop a culture expectation for the organization on how we treat each other and provide service to Coppell citizens. Whereas Ken has consistently lived and encouraged others to live the organization's mission, building community through public service, the legacy Ken built in the community will be evident for years to come. I, therefore, Karen Hunt, the mayor of the city of Coppell, do hereby proclaim March 27th, 2018, as Ken Griffin Appreciation Day. In witness thereof, I have set my hand and caused the seal to be affixed to this document this 27th day of March 2018. Council. Councilmember Franklin.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I make a motion here, just wanted to say a couple of words to Ken. Council members didn't get to say much out there. Of course, we'd still be out there if we had. But you've been an exemplary employee. I mean, the example that you've set for those who are coming behind you is just won't be paralleled. Maybe equaled, but certainly not surpassed. I think the culture that you've helped establish in this organization has really transformed our community, and we thank you for that. You have helped make Coppell a community of choice, and we really do appreciate you, and we thank you for that. So with that, I'd like to make a motion.
Is there a second? Everybody gets to second. Second by Mayor Pro Tem Yingling. Any other comments? Councilmember Mays.
I was trying to figure out how to do that as part of the second, and I couldn't do that. So, Ken, one of the things that I remember very clearly before you and I ever met was attending some council meetings back a decade ago and asking somebody who that guy was up there. And they said, well, that's Ken Griffin. He's our city engineer. And I said, oh, I asked a question. They said, no, don't touch his work. He's perfect. So, being an engineer myself, I go, But I think there was a lot of wisdom in whoever told me that. So thank you very much for your service to the city.
Mayor Pro Tem Yingling.
Thank you, Mayor. Ken, we've had a couple opportunities where we've had to go out and meet citizens on certain sites and talk about different maybe drainage issues or something, and you're always so great working with the people. And I think sometimes after, y'all don't understand the history that we're going to lose here when Ken leaves, but you're able to give the background of what happened maybe 10 or 15 years before the situation came up and what was done even 20 years, 25 years before that. So the way you've dealt with the citizens and the way you've listened to them has been, I got to watch it firsthand, so I appreciate it, and I appreciate you, and we're going to miss you. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments? I look at this gentleman as a teacher. I learned a lot from him. He's always gracious with his instruction, and he has always done things for the betterment of this city. So it is with great honor that I hand you this proclamation. Oh, wait, we didn't vote. All in favor? All in favor?
Council members Long, Mays, Yingling, Franklin, Hill, none opposed. The motion carries.
Thank you. I can't see you when my back's towards you. Sorry. Well, you appreciate the humor anyway. That's the way it's supposed to be. So it's a pleasure for me to present that proclamation to you. It is a small token, but it is well deserved. And I'm going to give you the mic if you want a few moments. Wait.
No, I'll just take a minute. This been a council meeting. For you, those of y'all that don't know, the people that sit around this dais, they're the ones that make the community go. We as employees of the community, we're the recipient of that. And it's been an honor to serve the citizens. It's been an honor to serve this council, and I look forward to many great things in the future. But I look forward to spending a lot of time with that girl back there in the back. Right, Henley? Yeah, so it's been a great ride. I certainly appreciate all the support and help from council. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I was remiss. Please remain standing. The family. No, I'm sorry. The rest of you can sit down. The family, thank you for allowing him to be a part of the city. I know it's sacrifice from wife, children, family, and we appreciate the fact that you lent him to us maybe more than 8 hours a day. Probably more than 8 hours a day. But thank you. Thank you. Chief Richardson. Item 17 is the presentation to the Coppell Fire Department, and I'm going to let Chief Richardson do the presentation.
Good evening. So every year, the Texas Fire Chiefs Association holds their annual conference near our state capitol in Austin. And I had the honor last month to attend the conference. During the annual conference, they, in addition to all the other activities, they present 3 awards. And this year, I was proud to be the recipient and represent the fire department in the city to be associated with 2 of those 3 awards throughout the state of Texas. The first one that I'd like to speak about tonight is what they call the Lone Star Achievement Award. And the criteria for this award has to do with innovation and creative problem solving and things of that nature. And the cities of Coppell, Carrollton, Farmers Branch, and Addison have been combining resources and sharing resources the last several years on some really big-ticket projects. These were innovative solutions to some problems that all 4 cities had. We were able to work through the 4 governments, the 4 fire departments, all the interlocal agreements, the memorandums of understandings, all the challenges that happened with that. One of the major projects was our Joint Fire Training Center, which serves all 4 fire departments. What that does is we all share the resource, and it's worked out very well. We cut the ribbon over the summertime, and so that's been a huge resource for our firefighters and their training. The second project was our combined P25 radio-compliant radios. So the federal government came out, and there's legislation that says we have to meet certain standards and certain infrastructure, which we didn't have at the time. So we combined resources, were able to come up with some really good pricing for quantity, develop some standard operating procedures, work together, and recently have implemented that program. And that led into it was working so well, we decided to take another step with our Joint Dispatch Center. So between the 4 fire departments and the police departments, we have combined resources. We have 1 dispatch agency now. There's not a whole lot of redundancy. We're able to provide the same resources that we had, and it's been working out very, very well. So the 4 cities, all 4 fire chiefs were down there to receive this award for our cooperation and innovative approach to solving these problems. And it's kind of interesting because since then I've been back a month, and we have been, all 4 fire chiefs have been approached to share our model that we have because other agencies are starting to use this as a model to solve some of the problems that they had. So let me read the award real quick. It says, it's from the Texas Fire Chiefs Association, the 2017 Lone Star Achievement Award presented to the Quad Cities of Coppell, Carrollton, Farmers Branch, and Addison, and it was presented on February 26th at the state capitol in Austin, Texas. So I just want to say thank you to all of our elected officials, to our city staff members, all the members of the fire department. These have been some monumental tasks, and there's a long list of people who are involved in all these projects, but I just want to extend a huge thank you to all of them and congratulate them on a job well done. So here you go.
And then you have one more. So item 7 is, let me read it in. Item 8, presentation to the Coppell Fire Department on receiving the Texas Fire Chief Association Fire Safety Award.
So receiving one was a big honor. But Life Safety Park was the recipient of the Fire Safety Award. And the criteria for this award is that you have implemented some kind of a program that's had a direct impact on service delivery that really was going to make a difference in providing a safer environment. And the Life Safety Park was nominated because of the innovative approach in prevention activities. So the idea is if you can spend your efforts up front and prevent injuries, accidents, and fires, that would be our best opportunity to make a big impact. And so the Texas Fire Chiefs have presented the 2017 award to Coppell Life Safety Park. And I have our staff members here, our facility coordinator, Gina Lentieri, and our she's the manager, and the coordinator is Bethany Hardinsky. And I'm going to let them make a few comments because they're the ones that put a lot of work into it.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd just like to thank all of the citizens, the council, and the community for all the continued support you give of the Life Safety Park and our mission of bridging life safety and public education. We've had over 11,000 visitors to our facility since we opened last January, so we stay pretty busy out there, even though when you're driving by, it may not look like it. We may have 100 kindergartners in there. So we just appreciate your continued support. It's an honor to be awarded at the state level for the Coppell's commitment to life safety of the citizens here. We have a lot going on coming up. We have a lot of activities over the summer for our elementary age kids and middle school as well as adult classes. So we are excited about those. There are going to be some new classes that we've never had before, so we've got a lot of exciting things going on out there. And we are just excited to continue serving the public with our classes out there. Thank you.
Thank you. So let me read this real quick. Again, it says the Texas Fire Chiefs Association are presenting the 2017 Safety Award to the Coppell Fire Department's Life Safety Park, presented February 26th at the State Capitol in Austin, Texas. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And we are very proud of our police department and also our fire department for all the different things that you guys have done in collaboration. It is truly made a difference in our community and the communities that surround us. So thank you for that constant effort. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is we have Mr. Ed Guillon here to do a presentation by the Arts Council for the Andy Brown East Art Stroll.
Yeah, this will work, I think. Okay. And this will move it. Good evening. How you doing? My name is Ed Guillon. I'm here representing the Coppell Arts Council. And as I think all of you are aware, in support of the Coppell 2030 plan, the Coppell Arts Council has a mission of trying to promote the arts in the city of Coppell. And one of the focus areas is to make public art more approachable and available to the citizens. So with all of your support, we started doing that last year with phase 1 of our rotating outdoor sculpture exhibit in Old Town, which I think has been a huge success. It has helped to draw people down to the Old Town community, and I think it's helped in the economic development of that area as well. So at this point, we are 1 year into the 2-year rotating cycles that we're doing on that. And being an off year, we're now looking at phase 2, which we're planning to do in Old Town, or I'm sorry, in the Andy Brown East New Park area there. So the idea being these are 2-year rotations, and we're staggering this one a year after the first, so every year we should have fresh new art that's coming into the community as we go forward. So that's what I want to update you on tonight, is what's happening with the Andy Brown Phase 2 project as we go forward here. Have I got? We'll get to it. Thank you. Thank you, Jean. I think it's on. Oh, if it's not, I'll try the keys. There we go. Okay, so earlier this year, we put out a call for art. Again, it was a regional Texas call. And we specifically asked in that the artists this time look at some different mediums, some different materials than what we had in our first exhibit in Old Town, try to give some variety to our art exhibit as we go forward. So we got 30 very good entries coming back from that. And we put together a team to pick the top ones out of that. So we have a group of 8 people, 3 of us from the Arts Council. We have a student liaison on the Arts Council who was a member. We had 3 citizens of Coppell and a city liaison as well. So we went through these 30 options. Some of them we had to kind of bypass because there were some safety concerns with them. But of the remaining ones, we picked the 10 that we felt were the most appropriate and gave some good variety. We also, as you'll see, have an 11th option, and I'll talk about that for a little bit as well. So I just wanted to run through real quick to give you an idea of which ones we've selected at this point for your consideration. First one, kind of a funny name, I Hate Mimes. Pretty good size. All these are pretty good size. They're at least 5 foot or taller as you look at them. So this will include the one piece that's curved with the black and white stripes coming down to the hand. So it's a bit more whimsical. It's a little different than what we've had in the past. A pretty good size piece, as you can see, with about 6 foot tall on that one. Next one we've got is called Atlas. Some of the feedback we had gotten last time is some people kind of were hoping for a little more realistic art to come out of it. So this entry fits that a little bit more with a metal sculpture. This one being pretty good size as well, about 8 foot tall. But it gives us a little different view of some art in the city here. 6 Directions. This one's 15 foot tall. This is real bold color, bold forms, and can be kind of a landmark one in the park down there as well. Spring Frenzy. This ties a little bit back to the Old Town one. It has a little bit of look of one there that's called Autumn Happy Dance. And it's the same artist, in fact. So we have a little bit of tie to the existing one, but this is still about a 6 foot tall piece, so a pretty good size on that. High Stepping, this is a little different approach that we've taken here with some flowing different forms on this. Also about a 5 foot tall piece on this one. Paradox of Bling. This is another 15 foot tall one. It's pretty thin, but what's unique about this is a kinetic art piece. You may have seen them in places where the wind catches them and they actually move in the wind, so we'll be locating this one in a place where it catches a lot of wind. Complete Coppell, again, a little different materials on this one. We've got a metal and glass sculpture. We're working with the artist. The glass is thick and there's no concerns with that being out in a public space. But again, a pretty good size 10-foot piece that is really bold in the big space that we've got in Annie Brown there. Tailed J. This is another steel and glass piece, about a 9 foot tall. What's a little bit unique about this one is when we position this correctly, the shadows that come off of this creates a wing on the ground, and you actually get a full butterfly effect as it comes down there. So it's a pretty creative piece also. I shall rise up and I will stand tall. This is a concept piece at this point, meaning artist hasn't fully constructed it, but she has committed to us that it would be ready in time to be installed. This is a 3 foot by 6 foot piece with a cutout of a human figure in the front box and a shadow cast on the back wall. So again, we'll be positioning that one so that it creates the most impactful effect that it can. Cobra. This is a big, bold piece, bright colors, 9 foot tall. Different artist, but kind of ties into the existing Red Pony one that we have in Old Town now. So we do have a couple that are trying to link together a little bit with it. And then this is an 11th piece. We have requested assistance on funding with 10 from council, as you did before. We would not be asking for additional funding on this. This would be sponsorships that we would fund putting in. But our thinking is that this piece with the bright red piece that you just saw could be really impactful out in the large space out there. So that's the 11 that we're proposing at this point, and wanted to tell you where we are on the next steps going forward here. So we have tentative locations for each of these. City staff is reviewing that, and once that's finalized, we'll come back to you for approval to make sure that everybody's comfortable with the locations. City staff is also looking at what kind of installation requirements would be on some of these, especially larger ones, and are there any special safety considerations that we have to take on ones that somebody might get on top of, whatever reasons, kind of thing. So we're looking through those kind of things currently. Throughout April, we will start installing the concrete pads. We're doing competitive bids with the city staff to make sure that we get good prices. You all know what's happening with concrete these days, so we want to make sure we're competitive on that. And then we'll also be going through our normal sponsorship activities like we did on the last exhibits in Old Town as well. And then in May, we'll actually install. And then similar to what we did last time, on June 2nd, we're planning the Andy Brown Art Stroll. It'd be a similar format as what we did last time, where it'd be an evening event with art, music, drinks. It'd be a nice, very classy type event. We'll be selling general admission and VIP tickets as we did before. And the VIP section is planned to be in the Boardwalk Pavilion on the back side of Andy Brown Park there, so it gives us a little more exclusive area for the VIP section. This art stroll is a fundraising event for us in the Arts Council. We have other fundraising events that we're doing, plus all the pieces that are out there currently are for sale. And if any of them sell, we get a commission on that, so that's just another way we might make some funding on that as well. But I'm pleased to say that currently we've almost got enough funds to do what we originally planned, which is to purchase one of the pieces as a permanent gift to the city, to be a part of the city going forward kind of thing, rather than being rotating art. So we're very close on that. We hope to have that after going through our fundraising on this event as well. And on behalf of the Arts Council, I just want to thank all of you for your support on Phase 1 and going forward on Phase 2. I think it really adds to the quality of life in the city here. But open for questions.
Thank you very much. And really, the last event last year, I have people asking me, well, when is the next one? When is the next one? So now I know.
Now you know, yes.
Council, questions? Mayor Pro Tem Yingling.
Thank you, Mayor. Very exciting. Love the first phase. Excited about 2.0. You made a comment, so I'm jumping in there
Okay.
on the I Hate Mimes. Is that one?
Yes.
How tall is that?
That one, I think, is about 6 feet. Yeah, a little bit over 6 feet.
When you talked about safety and people, first thing I said to Council Member Franklin is, I can see kids jumping on that and swinging on it. Is that
one of the ones that
Yeah.
we're looking at safety issues?
Yeah.
We may have to put some mulch, fall kind of things like in a playground scenario underneath that.
Okay.
The other big red sculpture is another one that somebody could get on top of, and so we're looking at that one as
okay?
well.
Okay, just
Yeah.
want to point that, and I know you guys are thinking about that stuff, but just feel like
You know,
had
we
to-
asked the artist if they could just hang a swing from it and be done with it, but they didn't want to do that.
Very exciting. We're looking forward to it. Thanks.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Right.
We look forward to the next steps.
Thank you all. Appreciate
Thanks.
it. Do you have a question? Yes.
You know that, then no one will come near it.
You know, some of these we are thinking about putting in landscaped areas or behind walls and things, which would kind of tend to people out. And in fact, in some areas, we're talking about maybe putting some new landscaping around it to try to keep folks out. But we certainly know some of them will be attracting people in a public play area like Andy Brown Park is. So. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is citizens' appearance. Persons wishing to speak on any matter other than items scheduled for a public hearing on the agenda must sign and register. Presentations are limited to 2 minutes each. Individual speakers' time may be extended an additional 2 minutes with the approval of the majority of the council present. We call people in the order that they have signed up. So first is Mr. Dan Trousted. And please state your name and address for the record.
Absolutely. Good evening, council members. My name is Dan Tostrud. Live at 334 Matheson Court in Coppell. It's in the Cottonwood Creek neighborhood. My wife, Amanda, and I have been in Coppell for 22 years. And we are here today, and there are several other citizens from our neighborhood also here today. And what we're asking the council to consider is reasonable regulations regarding the use of homes in Coppell as hotels. Okay? I believe this is fairly new to Coppell. It's been expanding nationwide, and if we don't get out in front of it, it could expand in Coppell, and it could expand rapidly. And so what I'm talking about specifically is individuals or companies buying residences in Coppell in which they do not intend to live and do not live, and instead list those residences on Airbnb for rent for as little as 1 day. It's short-term rentals. An example, and really the reason why we're here, is a house in our neighborhood. It's listed on Airbnb. It's a 4-bedroom house. It's listed for up to 16 people for as little as 1 day. The word parties is mentioned in the listing. You'll hear some anecdotal information about some issues we've recently had with that particular situation. Make no mistake, these are hotel operations being conducted by entrepreneurs for profit. That's precisely what it is. If they succeed, like any other entrepreneurial, may I have a few more minutes? If they succeed, like any other entrepreneurial venture, there's going to be more of them. So specifically, we believe they ought to be regulated just like the city of Coppell regulates other commercial ventures. We're proposing reasonable regulations. Number one, a minimal rental or lease term of at least 21 days. We know other communities that have had a minimum of 30 days. And by the way, the 30 days would be contiguous with a month-to-month type lease situation. So we're suggesting a minimum of 21 days. And also, for a 4-bedroom house, we're suggesting a limit of 2 per bedroom. We shouldn't be advertising a 4-bedroom house for up to 16 people to stay. That's just asking for problems. We're concerned about losing the suburban residential feel in our neighborhood and in other neighborhoods in Coppell if these proliferate. We're concerned about safety issues. And as we know, Coppell, we are close to the airport. We're close to entertainment venues, and we've got universities north, west, and east, and those are real concerns. And we're just asking the council to consider getting out in front of this issue before it really becomes a problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Yvette Rosinski. I'm going to double check to make sure I.
Good evening, and my name is Yvette Rosinski. I live at 419 Sheffield Court in the Cottonwood Creek area. And I am a 14-year resident of the city of Coppell. This year, from January until 2 weeks ago, I was unemployed, which gave me a lot of time to be hanging out in my house during the daytime. As January proceeded, I noticed every day there were trucks coming in, delivering furniture, and there were cleaning crews. I thought this current owner was getting ready to stage the house to sell it. I found out right after that from a friend in our neighborhood that it was in fact listed at Airbnb. Since that time, I have seen progressively different cars, every day or every other day, both in the front and in the back garage. And then as soon as they check out, the cleaning crew comes in at from 12 to 2, and they come clean the house, and it's ready for the next guests. Our neighborhood in Cottonwood Creek has been one of low turnover, long-term owner-occupied stability. Our cul-de-sac has remained the same since we moved in June 2006. As the neighborhood children have grown up and our lives are marked by life events, both joyous and sad, graduations, sweet 16s, marriages, early passings, the individual families comprising our community have always pulled together as a neighborhood family, shared the news of significant life events, and abided by the common sense guidelines of the HOA. These are why we moved to Coppell. For the first time in many years, I have asked my husband to put locks on our patio gates, something previously only done when we go out of town. I have lost a feeling of safety and security, which I have always had in 14 years, in my home and going out for a run. I can't even, now I'm getting emotional. 415 Sheffield, I have 30 seconds more, thanks. 415 Sheffield converting to an Airbnb does not fit the spirit of Coppell as a family-oriented community, the governance guidelines of the HOA, nor our extended neighborhood family. If in the position of being an investor with a newly acquired investment property in hand, I certainly would have approached my potential neighbors to share my intent of turning this residential home into a hotel. Community feedback may have helped to facilitate options in exercising assistance with a long-term rental approach versus that of opening a hotel in a family neighborhood. The vacation rental industry is growing and will present increased risk to much of what we hold dear about Coppell: family safety, quality of the community, and for most of us, the value of the largest investment we have in our lives, which is our home. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The next person on the list is Susan Zipperman. Welcome, and please state your name and address for the record.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Susan Zipperman, and I reside at 406 Sheffield Court. I have lived in my home for 21 years, and I am disheartened to see the swift changes brought about by an Airbnb listing on our street. My primary concerns include the following: safety. With the revolving door of strangers on our street, we now feel less secure in our home. I will be putting locks on the gates to my backyard for the first time in 21 years. When my daughters were little, I felt comfortable having them play outside and walk to school. As there is no vetting process on Airbnb that ensures this house won't be rented to pedophiles, voyeurs, or felons, I would not feel that way today. Number 2, property values. In only 1 month's time, I can see how having this situation on my street has made it less desirable, and I worry about the impact on property values. I chose to live on a small, quiet cul-de-sac with no businesses. It seems as if overnight, a hotel that can accommodate up to 16 people began operations directly across the street. The primary purpose of this house has become a business, not in keeping with the single-family residential purpose our neighborhood was designed for. Lastly, the future of Coppell. I am pleading for your leadership. Please make this issue a priority. There is no need for this type of business to exist within our neighborhoods. If it must, establishing a minimum number of rental days, requiring the owner to occupy any home listed for short-term rentals, requiring a permit, requiring a limit to number of cars allowed are all ways we can help prevent future disruptions to the quality of our living. Please take action to protect Coppell residents and maintain its status of being one of the best places in Texas to live and to raise a family. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Greg Rosinski, right?
It is. Very good.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Greg Rosinski, and I live at 419 Sheffield Court here in Coppell. I'm a 14-year resident, and I'd like to thank the council for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. I saw something on the web and decided that's how I'd open this presentation. Family and community last a lifetime. We believe that statement. That's why we live here, we raise our children here, we grow older here. That's why we're all here this evening. We believe so strongly in that premise, we welcome an international view to our collective home with that statement via the World Wide Web. Family and community. Meaningful words, words that are now potentially at risk. A quick Google search will rapidly identify those that pose instability to what we cherish and hold dear in our community. On their site, Airbnb, vacation rentals, homes, experiences, and places, the masters of marketing make that commercial resource seem so enticing. So enticing, the quick Google search just mentioned will return 9 primary Airbnb competitors, some probably new to you, but not for long. Tripping.com, Flitkey, HomeAway, VRBO, House Trip, Bay Stays, Vacay Hero, Luxury Retreats, and Wimdu. They all want a piece of our community neighborhoods. Our neighborhoods are exemplary. For example, Ashford Drive, Basilwood Drive, Clover Meadow Lane, Crestview Court, Harris Street, Juniper Court, Pelican Lane, and Raintree Circle. Imagine, if you will, what families in those neighborhoods would feel and experience with little or no recourse available to them if an outside real estate investor made the decision to open what is essentially a hotel in those neighborhoods. Imagine further a potential Texas OU weekend-like party next door, repeatedly throughout the year. Next to my home, the now Airbnb hotel at 415 Sheffield advertises Sleep 16, as you've heard earlier in the presentation. Sleep 16 in a 4-bedroom home? Even Motel 6 wouldn't turn the lights on for that. In closing, I would simply like to share and acknowledge property owner rights. There are both regulations to be had and potential taxable revenue streams not currently being leveraged, which would help regulate this initial infestation and the going detriment to our community health. Thank you for the privilege of your time.
Thank you very much. The next on the list is Lori Slack. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Lori Slack, and my husband and I have lived on Sheffield Court, 414 Sheffield Court, 23 years, original owners. We raised our kids and many of their friends there, and fully intend to entertain our grandkids someday in our home. I'm a teacher at Coppell High School, and it is with sincere concern that I come asking that our city representatives take proactive action to ensure the vacation rental industry is subject to reasonable requirements that y'all determine is in the best interest of all of its citizens. I believe that neighborhoods are meant to be occupied by neighbors, which to me are homeowners, their families, or their long-term tenants who are invested in the community. I am truly concerned, though, when a here today, gone tomorrow group of 16 or more guests are essentially allowed to book a home like a hotel in our neighborhoods. I know some Airbnb listings say things like no parties, no events, only 5 cars parked total, but the truth is I don't see any protections from our city if the owner ignores the violations or the guests disobey the rules. Even if the owner does acknowledge the violations, it's too late. They've already occurred. I feel that reasonable restrictions need to be enforced on all vacational rental properties, and I would love to see Coppell limit the number of guests to 8 or less and restrict the length of stay to a minimum of 21 or 30 days. This will create a safer environment where guests are accountable for their behavior. It will also help to eliminate events and parties that dishonest guests use these properties for, as was the case at 415 Sheffield Court on Thursday, March 22nd. Another suggestion is to require all vacation rental properties to be the owner's primary residence, thus protecting us from entrepreneurs who seek to buy up our streets and neighborhoods as hotels. Even though I feel our homeowners association has current bylaws that are intended to prohibit short-term rentals, I come here to share our story because what occurs on one of our streets ultimately affects all of us in the city I call home. And I really appreciate every one of y'all for taking this and listening to us. Thank you.
The next person is Amanda. Your name and address for the record.
I will, gladly. My name is Amanda Tostert. I live at 334 Matheson Court. My husband, Dan, who you met first tonight, and I built our home and have lived in it since 1996. It will be 22 years this July. 22 years of incredible memories in our home with our 2 college children, Elliot and Augusta, extended family, and dear friends. I come to you tonight for my very first time to share my concerns over what is happening in our beloved city, specifically on Sheffield Court. The home directly behind mine is unoccupied and being rented like a hotel for short-term use to very large groups, causing much disruption, disturbance of peace, and unsafe conditions in the neighborhood. For instance, last Thursday evening, March 22nd, this home was filled with dozens of young adults. The street was lined with cars. A video was being filmed inside the home, according to one of the renters. Every light was on. Every blind was up. The police came by twice. Neighbors were alarmed and concerned about safety for themselves and their children. I ask you, is this where Coppell is headed? I respectfully request the council to consider reasonable measures to regulate short-term rental of homes in Coppell. This request is warranted with recent actions of entrepreneurs using their homes for hotel-like business ventures. I propose a 21-day minimum for the short-term rental of Coppell homes. I also suggest the number of people renting the home should be no more than 8, and the number of cars parked outside should be no more than 3. But most important is the 21-day minimum. The benefits of 21 days are numerous. They will integrate into our city. They will shop Coppell. They will attend our churches. They will protect the home, and they will be courteous renters. Let me be clear. I am here for reasonable measures to be considered to protect. May I have just a few more seconds? Thank you. To protect our Coppell way of life. We all clearly love the city and want to see it preserved. We are grateful for your time and service to the city. We appreciate you hearing our concerns and are confident measures can be taken to restore our sense of safety and well-being in our neighborhood and our city. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, one more. We have a copy of our things we said. May I give that?
Just give that to the city secretary.
I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. The next person on citizens' appearance is Vinky Venkatranam. We have agreed to go ahead and give you the extension, so you'll have four minutes to speak.
And I believe there's a projector here to project. I just want to make sure I know how it works.
Yep, there you go.
Oh, that's all. That's easy. Okay. So let me know when I have to start.
You need to state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, council members. My name is Venki Venkatraman, 415 Gifford Drive, Coppell. So I'm not here to talk about Airbnb, so I think it's been covered extensively. So this is completely different, maybe not as exciting. It's about a traffic signal and how the traffic code works in Coppell. And so, first of all, I want to make it clear that I also have a presentation coming up, and I was told that certain matters don't fall within the jurisdiction of the City Council, and so those are the ones that I might be talking about here, and I'll be again talking about the rest of it at the presentation. But this is going to be more of a narrative, because it could be a combination of both things, because I believe there's no restriction what I can talk about at this particular session. So, first of all, before I start, I want to make it clear that this is entirely about policies and procedures and processes. I have absolutely no complaints about any person who works for the city. Gentleman, the handsome gentleman sitting here, Mike Lan, fantastic city manager. And there we have the lovely Jean Dwinell, always helpful, cooperative. We have Crystal Patinos, who's always helpful. We call her and she helps out. And even Mr. Hager, whom I initially thought was Hager the Horrible, but he's actually a nice person. He actually spells the name different. So it's entirely about procedures and processes, no complaints whatsoever about the individuals. So starting in a narrative form, I had a call on September 9th of last year not a call, I got a text message from my daughter saying, hey, there's some problem. So she's in a school. I said, let me hop into my car and let me go and make sure everything's all right. So it was around 7:30 in the morning. So head out. I'm on Gifford Drive, so make a left onto Parkway. And then as I go on Parkway, I see a police car parked on the median, make a right into the school without any incident, and then see my daughter for a few minutes. Within about 5 minutes, I'm heading out. I come and stop at the signal. As far as I can tell, there's a red signal, and there's a sign there's a white signal in between two red signals. And there's a car in front of me. So when the light turns green, the car in front turns left. I turn left right behind that car. And both of us end up getting stopped by the police. And we get this ticket, I guess, which is, I don't know if you can see this, but the yellow highlight essentially says no left turn. And I was pretty surprised because I've never come across any place in some 30-odd years I've lived in the U.S., and Coppell for that matter, where you can't go back the way you came. And so I checked with the city, the gentleman, Ken Griffin's subordinate, George Marshall, and I asked him, hey, I would like to know if there are any other signals in Coppell where at certain times of the day you're prevented from turning back in the direction which you came. And the short answer is, it's not visible. Short answer is no. That's what he said. So that's the only single signal on which you actually, in Coppell, and as far as I know, the rest of the country, maybe, I don't know, where you can't go back the way you came. You're like trapped. The only way you can go back is to make a U-turn at Walgreens, or a U-turn off Sandy Lake, or go and make a right turn on Denton Tap. Not Sandy Lake, I'm sorry, Denton Tap. Or you make a right turn on Denton Tap, go all the way to Sandy Lake, make a huge circle, come back. I don't even know why that should be. So the two issues that I was not clear about, I don't really remember seeing a no left signal. So I asked George Marshall, again, he's a traffic engineer, and he essentially told me that there was some troubleshooting going on with the...
Excuse me, that was the full 4 minutes.
That was?
That was the full 4 minutes.
I thought I'd get a warning before I get to 2 minutes.
No. I told you at the beginning, as you requested, that you would have the full 4 minutes. So,
so I suggest it's up to you.
So
do you want to hear the rest of the story, or we cut it short? Or you wait for the... Can you give me another minute or two to wrap it up? I didn't know. I was under the impression I was going to get a 2-minute warning. So I never got a 2-minute warning. I thought that was the 2-minute warning.
Okay. I told you at the beginning, I'm sorry, your time is up. Mm-hmm. You will be able to talk again at the time of your citizens' agenda item.
Well, I didn't get to the
And
crux
you are
of-
more than welcome to come back next time and speak again.
Again on the same thing.
If that's what you desire, you can do that.
All right.
Thank you.
That's fine. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. These items are items A through F, and they are normally considered in one motion. They are items that have either been approved by previous council action or have been approved through the budget. Council, are there any items that you would like to look at separately? None. Councilmember Franklin.
Thank you, Mayor Hunt. Move to approve consent agenda items 11A through 11F.
Second by Councilmember Long. All in favor?
Councilmembers Long, Mays, Yingling, Franklin, and Hill. None opposed. The motion carries.
Thank you. Next item is item 12. Did I skip an item? Nope, I am. Okay. Item 12. This is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing. Consider approval of an ordinance to the City of Coppell, Texas, readopting, ratifying, republishing, and extending Chapter 9 of the Code of Ordinances, Article 9 through 19, Youth Camp Programs, Standards of Care, and authorizing the mayor to sign. And we have Sherry Belmont here, the Recreation Center Manager, to help us with this item.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As most you just know, the Mayor just introduced me, Sherry Belmont, the Recreation Center Manager over at the Corps. This is an annual update that we bring every year for the standards of care for our camp programs that we host throughout our Parks and Recreation Department. So through this process, it's a state exemption that we go through and follow the guidelines that are set forth by the state of Texas through the standards of care to then give us guidelines to be exempt as a municipality within the state of Texas. So as you know, we have pretty successful programs over at the Corps and in the Parks and Recreation Department. And so through many of those programs, we host up to 1,600 kids during the year through our off-site programs as well as our on-site programs that we actually have over at the Corps. So if you think holidays and summer, we host about 15 weeks with full actual day camps that we host there at the Corps. So again, this is just an annual update that we bring every year for our standards of care to get through the process for the state exemption.
Are there any questions, comments? Councilmember Mays.
Thank you, Mayor. Were there any substantial changes in the standards of care this year as compared to last year?
No, there were no changes at all this year.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? Hearing none, Councilmember Mays.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to close the public hearing and approve item number 12.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Yingling. All in favor?
Councilmembers Long, Mays, Yingling, Franklin, Hill. None opposed. The motion carries.
Thank you very much. Item 13, I'll open the public hearing. Consider approval of the location of the Public Safety Building, Fire Station, on a public-owned property located at the intersection of Royal and North Point in the city of Coppell. And we have Chief Richardson here to help us with this item.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Richardson. I'm the fire chief, and I'm going to present some information today on this item. A little background and significance on this project. The fire department was struggling with response times in our area, and primarily due to growth. We embarked on a very detailed and data-driven standards of cover document. We've been working on it for over a year. A little background on the project. We presented the background and significance to the City Council. We, along with our consultant, analyzed our response data, performed our facilities review. We presented the standards of cover itself. We reviewed our performance standards, explored all the recommendations that were given. And since then, through our presentations, we presented to the City Council the opportunity to, one of the options was to add Fire Station number 4 and to relocate Fire Station number 1. And what I'd like to do today is talk about obtaining the property for Fire Station number 4. So we had the standards of cover document, and you've seen this. I'm going to just, for reference, the highlighted areas were the areas where we were struggling with the industry standard of 4 minutes or longer with travel time. And so basically the current configuration of fire stations for our 3 fire stations, we have outgrown that. And those are the areas we identified to be out of the National Fire Protection standards. The option that you gave me direction to move forward with was to add this Fire Station number 4, which is in this area right here, and relocate Fire Station 1 to this area. What that did, the red shaded area shows the added response coverage area that is within the industry standard. Our current configuration, I believe, is 78% coverage. The industry standard calls for 90%. This option would, in turn, provide a 92% coverage within the industry standard to the city. So that's a little bit of the significance. This area right here is what I'm here tonight to talk about, which is this property that's owned by the city that is adjacent to the water tower in the Wagon Wheel area. And just for reference, the options that we're moving forward with would put us in compliance with the industry standards, put us in a better position to handle future growth and development, reduce our response time, obviously, which would enhance our survivability rates for all of our emergency medical services, as well as provide our firefighters and our rescue personnel there within the standardized time. It'll also preserve our ISO Class 1 rating and obviously protect the city's liability. This is the area that I'm here tonight to review with you. This is the Wagon Wheel Water Tower right here off of North Point Drive, and Royal Lane is right here. This is the area right here. The city owns this property already, and we're interested in this 2-acre area right here to construct Fire Station number 4. So that's why I'm here tonight, is for you to consider approval of the location for the fire station that is on publicly owned property that's located on North Point Drive, right in the vicinity of Royal Lane. This time I'd entertain any questions.
This is a public hearing, and no one has signed up to speak, so I'll turn it over to the council. Do you have any questions or comments? We have, as you noticed from the very first of this, we've been talking about this for over a year. So there are no questions, so I will look to council for a motion. Councilmember Franklin.
Thank you, Mayor Hunt. Move to close the public hearing and approve item 13.
Second by Councilmember Mays. All in favor?
Council members Long, Mays, Yingling, Franklin, Hill, none opposed. The motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 14 is also a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing. Consider a tariff authorizing an annual rate review mechanism for an annual interim rate adjustment process as defined by Section 104.301 of the Texas Utility Code as negotiated between Atmos Energy and Mid-Tex Division and Steering Committee of the cities served by Atmos, requiring the company to reimburse these cities reasonable rate-making expenses. And we have our city attorney here to walk us through this one.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. This is traditionally every time this year we generally get what used to be called the GRIP rate, and what that was is the attempt by Atmos to begin the process to alter the rates of your gas service at residential and commercial development. The city belongs to, yes, it is on. The city and belongs to the steering committee, which is a conglomeration of cities that, instead of doing this piecemeal, city by city by city, they join together and negotiate with Atmos. Atmos complained about the process that was being implemented under the old GRIP rate, and so under Section 104.301 of the Texas Utility Code, we now have a new process, which is referred to the rate review mechanism. And as a result of that rate review mechanism, an agreement was reached regarding rate making. Rate making is traditionally done for the members of the public by taking the capital of the, in this case, the gas industry, and taking their plant, their oil and gas rights, their plants that they process the gas, the pipelines they deliver the gas. That is their capital investment. Then they have O&M operations expenses, and then they get a reasonable rate of return. And that's how traditional rate making is done. And so the rate review mechanism that was employed went through that process. As a result of the going through that process, the steering committee proposed an ordinance which you have before you tonight, and we're asking for your consent to approve that and this rate reduction, actually, that will occur as a result of the return of equity going from 10.5 under the current GRIP down to 9.8 under the RRM tariff, which is proposed in this ordinance. So what that translates into, and this is general throughout the cities that comprise the steering committee, there's an average of $1.68 residential reduction and a $5.40 commercial reduction on average monthly bill. That's not to say that that will take place here in Coppell, but that gives you some idea that as a result of this lower rate of return, if you will, that there will be a lower rate on your residential billing and your commercial billing. Now, one of the things we would like to caution the council about is that as Atmos has been in the news lately, they have undertaken a large capital program to upgrade their pipelines, and particularly in the residential pipelines. So next year when they go through this process, they're going to see an increase in their capital plant and that return on that capital, which is a component of rate making. So while we will enjoy some rate reduction this year, we can expect the rates to be a little bit higher next year as a result of that, even though there's been a reduction in the equity return on the investment. And having said that, that's probably more than you ever wanted to know about rate making. But we would go ahead at this time, and because of our participation in GRIP and our attorney and the experts that have reviewed all this, we're very confident and ask you to approve the ordinance which is before you tonight, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
This is a public hearing, and no one has signed up to speak, so I will turn it over to the council. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion. Councilmember Hill.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing and approve item number 14.
Is there a second? Councilmember Mays. All in favor?
Council members Long, Mays, Yingling, Franklin, Hill. None opposed. The motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hager. I am going to excuse myself from the item 15, and I'm going to turn it over to the Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Next item on the agenda is item 15. It is a public hearing, so I'm going to open the public hearing. Item 15 is to consider approval of PD-293-LI Cheryl Acres, a zoning change request from light industrial to planned development 293, light industrial to allow the subdivision of the property into two lots, allowing the retention of the existing lot on lot 281 and the approval of concept plan for Lot 282 for a future office building containing 1.44 acres of property located at 1703 East Beltline Road at the request of River Chase Realty LLC, being represented by Jeff Walker. Marcy Diamond, our Assistant Director of Planning, take it away.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction. This is a property in question against located on Beltline Road. This was originally platted in like year 2002, 3 lots. Currently, it's developed with a pediatrician, a veterinarian, and there's a general office. What's before you this evening is a request to take 1703, or this lot, which is currently developed with a dental office, and what they want to do is basically divide it into 2 lots to allow them to develop the southern lot. Once you subdivide a lot into 2, it does impose additional development regulations and setback issues and some concerns. So to allow this to occur and still be compliant with both the zoning and subdivision regulations, we did require them to do a planned development district, again allowing for the retention of the the office on Lot 1 and a concept plan for an office on Lot 2. This is conceptually how it would lay out. The planned development district would have PD conditions that would allow for things such as a shared multi-tenant sign, because it's physically located in Lot 2B1, but we would allow the tenants on Lot 2B2 to advertise on that. There would be another shared condition, because actually the dumpsters, currently located on the southern lot, but once you divide into 2 lots, we need to allow for shared use of that. There's also, among these lots, there's a nice shared access, so you can generally get to these 4 and potentially 5 buildings without going up on the street. Again, when you subdivide a property into 2 lots, it does increase the amount of landscaping that's required by our ordinance. As you're aware, that you're required to have 10-foot landscape buffer along all property lines. And so that would increase the amount of landscaping substantially. Even trying to achieve the perimeter landscaping, especially on the east side, is an issue, because there's a current paved mutual access driveway, and on the west side, back when this was platted in the early 2000s, they did provide for a 15-foot wide hike and bike trail. So, in the southern lot, again, how it's configured is about 4%, has a 4% deficit on landscaping. This is a current trails and master plan, which actually shows that there is supposed to be a trail connection. I know it's rather small, from Beltline Road to Grapevine Creek. When the property to the south of the subject property was developed, they did provide for that trail system, and it's physically on the ground. When the subject property was platted, they did provide the plat, but it hasn't been constructed yet. So the applicant has offered, basically in lieu of providing some of the required landscaping, that they would actually construct this trail within 5 years, or when the office to the south is developed, whichever happens first. With that being said, we did send 6 notices within 200 feet and 5 notices within 800 feet. We received no responses either in favor or opposition. And staff would like to say, while this is not an ideal lotting pattern, the existence of these 2 lots will really be invisible to anybody that goes to visit the site, and we feel it's important to get the second lot actually developed. So therefore, staff is recommending approval. On February 15th, the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval by unanimous vote of this Planned Development District 293, Sherrill Acres, subject to the following conditions, which will be incorporated as part of PD. One would be approval of the detailed site plan will be required for that office building, that the hike and bike trail shall be constructed by the property owner developer from the southern property line to Beltline Road prior to the CO for the development of Lot 2B2 or within 5 years, whichever occurs first, that the occupants of the building on Lot 2B2 shall be permitted to advertise on the existing monument sign located on 2B1, that the occupants on Lot 2B1 shall retain the right to use the existing dumpster located in 2B2, and the variances to the landscape ordinance that were caused by dividing this lot into two. That is my formal presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. The property owner and their engineer are in the audience.
Thank you, Marcy. This is a public hearing, and we actually do have one person signed up to speak. Peter Hennessy, are you in the audience?
He's the applicant.
When you come forward, would you please state your name and your address? Thank you.
I'm
Welcome.
Pete Hennessy at 329 Willow Springs Court, Coppell. Been around here 30 years or more. And this is the famous Dr. Walker, who owns the property.
Welcome.
And we've been the engineers and planners and worked with the city for many years. And our mentor here has guided us. So we're asking for approval. And I'll let Dr. Walker say a few words as well. And thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I own this. My name is Jeffrey Walker. I'm a physician in Irving. I live at 4509 Highland Drive in Dallas. My son is a dentist, so with myself and my son, we own this property. And this vacant land at the back really does need to be developed. It's the last portion of this development that hasn't yet been built on. And we think it, rather than just leave it as vacant land, it would be appropriate to develop it and have another professional office building on that location. And that's our request.
Thank you.
We're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Oh. Councilmember Long? I did first. Councilmember Long.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I appreciate it. Marcy, I have a question for you. The width of the trail is going to be what along the building or along the property?
It's going to be a 15-foot wide trail within a 20-foot right-of-way.
Okay, so it'll remain at the 15 feet.
Right. And actually, on the northern part, they had to reline it just a little bit to save a tree. Okay. So they did that as part of their plat also.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Franklin?
Ms. Diamond, with respect to the sort of cross easement agreement, will all of these conditions be embodied in one cross easement agreement, or will all these be sort of separate use provisions in different documents?
Well, they're going to actually be a PD condition, so it'll be on that, and also on the replat, so that we'll have them basically both places.
Okay, and so the condition of having to build the trail, let's say within 5 years, in the event, and this will be subdivided, the second property were to come into other hands, would both owners then be obligated, or the original owner be obligated to build the trail?
What they had done is Plan Commission already approved the replat, and so these conditions were part of the replat conditions. So when the new property owner buys it, then they would be subject to the same conditions.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Mays.
Thank you. Marcy, I'm curious on item 2 again. The development of the hike and bike trail would be prior to the certificate of occupancy for the lot or within 5 years. That means if nothing happens on the property, they would be required to put in the hike and bike trail at a 5-year point?
Yes, we visiting with the Parks and Parks Department, that was a good timing, that should give us plenty of time. It's my understanding that you intend to build the office building way before that.
We intend to sell the land for development, yes. That's our plan. And obviously, at that time, the bike trail would be constructed once those plans were approved.
But you understand that if you don't sell it within 5 years, you're going to have to put that in.
We have that obligation, yes, we understand that.
As long as we understand that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Entertain a motion. Councilmember Hill?
I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing and approve item 15 with conditions.
Seconded by Councilmember Franklin. All in favor?
Council members Long, Mays, Yingling, Franklin, Hill, none opposed. The motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we will move to item 16. This too is a public hearing, and Ms. Diamond is here to help us with it. I open the public hearing and ask you to read that into the record.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. This is a public hearing to consider approval of an ordinance, actually repealing ordinance number 91500A718 for case number S1262LI, driver select, to no longer allow the occupancy of the existing 153,000 square foot office warehouse building for internet-based car sales and ancillary uses, which is minor car repair, car storage, and offices, on approximately 8.7 acres of land located at 100 South Royal Lane, and authorizing the mayor to sign. Quick history of this, and City Council approved an SUP for basically this use, and on the Royal Lane site, as well as a 7.6 acre site for the ancillary storage of vehicles. Staff received notification that Driver Select was actually not going to occupy the Royal Lane facilities, and the building owners has requested that this SUP be rescinded. The next item on your agenda is actually to deny the ordinance for the storage lot, which was pending your approval last month. So on March 22nd, the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval of the repealing of ordinance number 91500-A718 for case number S1262LI for Four Seasons Lot 1. Be happy answering questions that you may have.
Okay, this is a public hearing. No one has signed up to speak, so I will turn it over to the I had to double check because no one did sign up to speak. So I'll turn it over to the council. Are there any questions? So basically, the tenant is not going to move into this building. Therefore, all of the conditions we put on it are no longer needed.
Right, we're going back to straight light industrial district zoning.
Okay, entertain a motion. Councilmember Franklin.
Thank you, Mayor Hunt. Move to close the public hearing and approve item 16.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Yingling.
Mayor, I want to caution you. You need to vote no if you.
No,
this
next
one's
one.
a repeal.
Next
It's
one.
the next one.
This is
It's
good.
the next.
It's
Yeah.
the next one.
Yeah, this one is the vote to repeal. Okay. All in favor?
Council members Long, Mays, Yingling, Franklin, Hill, none opposed. The motion carries.
Item 17, however, is consider approval of an ordinance for case number S1262RLI, Driver Select Fellowship of Las Colinas Edition, Lot 2R1, Block 1, a zoning change from light industrial to special use permit 1262 revised to allow the vehicle parking and staging an existing parking lot in conjunction with S1262LI on approximately 7.67 acres of land located west of the terminus of Gateview Boulevard, and authorizing the mayor to sign.
Again, thank you, Mayor. On January 9th, the City Council unanimously approved this special use permit, subject to the recommendations as approved by P&Z. And again, we were notified that they're not moving to their main facility, therefore, this ordinance needs to be denied. and Planning Department is recommending denial of this ordinance for S 1262R driver select.
Any questions? And again, this is the recommending the Planning Department and the owner is recommending declination.
We need to deny this, deny this ordinance because this was an ancillary use to the main ordinance that you just rescinded.
Questions? Councilmember Mays.
This may be inappropriate, but what happened to driver select?
My understanding is they chose another site. There was more typical dealership setting.
Councilmember Mays.
I move to approve item number 17.
Second. Seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Yingling. All in favor? All opposed?
Council members Long, Mays, Yingling, Franklin, Hill. The motion fails.
Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Diamond. Now, item 18 will be monumentous. We have Mr. Ken Griffin, the city engineer, at his last presentation to the city council as the city engineer. Item 18 is to consider approval of the contract amendment number 1 to the J. Volk Consulting, Inc. design contract to Parkway Boulevard reconstruction project in the amount of $178,600 and authorizing the city manager to sign any necessary documents. Mr. Griffin.
Good evening. It's always a pleasure. Before I start, this is council meeting 565. I know the resolution said there were countless agenda items, but I will let you know this will be agenda item 1,282. Yes, I did count them. I'm a numbers person. 1,282. And this will be the last item presented under my regime. I can't live up to some of them. This one's pretty dry. And I will tell you, after all those 500 plus meetings, for the very first time, my wife is actually in the audience. And she picked this one. So we're talking this evening about Parkway Boulevard. We awarded a design contract in 2015. We then got into a series of meetings, public meetings with citizens about the trail system, either on-street trail system, off-street trail system, bike path, not a bike path, etc. And we basically put the design of the project on hold. Our original thoughts on the project were to completely rebuild what's shown in yellow, and I'll have a zoom in just a minute. And then the areas in purple, magenta, was actually crack sealing to preserve the integrity of the paving. Again, the section that we were going to entirely remove was the north side of Parkway from Hertz to Alex, and then the entire roadway from Alex to Lodge. And those people who actually drive Parkway, that is a very poor section of roadway. So the goal was to get this design and rebuilt. But knowing that there was a park trail master plan approved shortly after we let the design contract, it was our opinion it'd be prudent to go ahead and work with incorporating the trail into this design. To do that, we had to place the actual design on hold for a period of time. After all the public hearings and meetings, we now have a project that still does crack sealing on a majority of the roadway, again shown in magenta, to preserve the paving. But now we will be removing the entire section from Hertz to Lodge. And that actually provides us the flexibility to do the trail systems and the wider sidewalks on the south side. And the section of yellow that goes from Lodge to Moore is an opportunity to extend the trail system further east and tie into Moore Road and then take a trail system back north into the park system. And just a comparison between the original design on top and now the proposed design on bottom. So there's some change in the actual design, and that change obviously constitutes change to the scope of the project. I'm going to walk you through basically 5 cross sections, so that kind of refresher, I'll go through this pretty quick on what we have proposed for Parkway Boulevard. Cross section AA, which is Hertz Road to the East Core Driveway. As you can see, it basically does not change. We are picking up and removing everything, putting back on the south side a 6-foot, actually an 8-foot. We've got enough room on the south side to put the wider sidewalk on the south side. And on the north side, we're also placing a 8-foot path. But the roadway section itself stays the same. The next cross section is from the East Core Driveway to Enclaves Court. In this section, again, the roadway is staying basically the same. The median staying the same, but the sidewalk on the south side is going from, it's a shame I can't see, going from 5 foot to 8 foot. It's getting a little closer to the roadway, and then the path on the north side is going from 5 foot to 8 foot. Roadway the same again. Cross section CC, which is from Enclaves Court to Alex Drive. We start seeing some changes in the roadway. So currently we have 2 lanes in each direction. Council may recall we did a traffic study in this section of Parkway, identified the fact that for the length of Parkway we did not need 2 lanes in each direction. That gave us an opportunity to remove one of the lanes and provide some off-street trail systems. So in this cross section, the south side still maintains the 2 lanes. We have the opportunity to go from a 5 foot to an 8 foot sidewalk. But on the north side, we are eliminating one of the lanes, going from 22 foot face to face, 23 back to back, to a 15 foot face to face road. However, that does give us the opportunity behind the back of curve to go from a 5 foot to an 8 foot walkway. Not losing any true capacity in the roadway because the additional lane was not needed. Cross section DD is from Alex Drive to Lodge Lane. Again, in this section, we had 4 lanes on the roadway. The reconstructed section of the roadway would have 2 lanes on the eastbound direction. Again, just one 15-foot lane on the north side, and then the wider pathway on the north side. At this location here, you can see that our sidewalk has started dropping back to a 6 foot as opposed to an 8 foot. We're trying to place the 8 foot in areas where we do have a necessary right-of-way, but in the areas where we don't have that, we're dropping back to a 6 foot. The next cross section, EE, is from Lodge Road to North Moore. This is the section of the roadway that was added that was not part of the original design project. We get real creative in this section. If you've ever walked on the north side of this road, there is a 4-foot sidewalk adjacent to the curve with basically 2 lanes of traffic coming at you. And it's I've walked it, and it's a very tight filling, and it's very tight because immediately adjacent to the 4-foot sidewalk, you got a brick screening wall. So it's a very closed, confined space. The opportunity to get the 8-foot walkway path all the way to Moore Road entails removing one of the lanes. So in this case here, we'll take out a lane, again, not needed per the traffic study. With that removal, it gives us the opportunity to place an 8-foot pathway on the north side, but it's also an 8-foot pathway that is 4 foot away from the back of curve, as opposed to a 4-foot sidewalk on the back of curb. Much safer. In this scenario also, if you look at the top where the red circle is, these are the sidewalks that showed up on the initial survey that showed to be originally constructed on private property. Again, we would look at prescriptive rights, but if we need to acquire easements, there are 31 houses that this occurs on, and we would acquire those easements to build the walkway. You will notice that while the walkway is currently on private property, we are not proposing to move it any closer to the private property. We are proposing to make it 6 foot wide and still maintain a green space between the sidewalk and the back of curb. That's just an update of the parkway because it's been almost a year since we talked about it. And so the change to the original scope of design is basically a design fee adjustment, $23,500. That is approximately a 10% increase to cover increase in labor and inflation over the last 2 years that the project's been basically on hold. The $8,500 on the preliminary planning, we asked the consultant during the public meetings to generate numerous cross sections at various locations to convey to the citizens what we were proposing. The design change from Hertz to Lodge is taking it from where we were not touching the south side to now we are touching the south side and completely removing and replacing it. The design change from Lodge to Moore is the opportunity to bring the 8-foot sidewalk all the way from Lodge to Moore on the north side by removing a section of the roadway. We did not have the median street lighting or the median landscaping in the original design contract. This will include that, and it will start at Denton Tap, not necessarily at Hertz. So it'll start at Denton Tap and proceed to, I believe it's Lodge, where the median plays out. The landscaping will be similar to what we've done on our other medians, i.e. Sandy Lake, Denton Tap. The subsurface utility engineering is going to be a much more detailed analysis of what's underground. As I indicated in the work session, as soon as we went out to do some additional borings on this project, we hit services on Parkway. Knowing that we don't have an idea exactly where they are, we want to make sure we can find them before we start doing the boring and tearing out roadways and building additional infrastructure. And because of that, we also need the additional geotech borings. All of that totals, 130-something thousand. And then the $37,000 is for the additional 31 easements if we find that's necessary. We're asking council this evening to award the entire amount. I'll come back to that. Entire amount of $178,600. Well, I thought we could see it better out here. We can't. I know it. So I'm going to put my glasses on. This is actually the revised schedule, and as I indicated in the work session, we don't anticipate starting this project till late January 2019. Because of that timeline and the fact that this project will take approximately 12 months, we will span 2 additional 2 school years. I know there was some conversation in the work session about expediting the design of the project. We will discuss that with the consultant and see if expediting the design gives us an opportunity to start the project closer to a September timeframe this year, such that we have the roadways rebuilt prior to the start of school in September of 2019. No guarantees on that. If it's a substantial change, then somebody in engineering will somebody in engineering that's not named Ken will bring back an agenda item asking the council to reconsider that. Again, if we find that there's an opportunity to do that and it's a benefit to the city and the citizens, then we would bring that back. If we stay on the current schedule, again, it's late January 2019 before we can start construction on this. The recommendation is to approve the contract amendment number 1 to J. Voke in the amount of $178,600, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Any questions? Comments? Yeah, nobody's going to ask one. Ask one.
This is a layup, Ken. With an attempt to potentially move the time up so that it wouldn't affect two school years, how would that impact our cost, if any at all?
It could impact the design costs. The construction costs, probably not. Now, we talked about it a little bit between work session and this presentation. If we can get the actual paving lanes removed and replaced in a timely fashion, then we would be working on things such as crack sealing, building the sidewalks behind the curb, the walkways, pathways behind the curb during the school year, the second school year, and we would try to do that between the 9 and 4, or with the school maybe a 9 to 3 time frame, and impact traffic getting to and from the school less. So we're going to look at a couple of options on this, one being expediting, one being to put milestones in the actual award of the project, such as you get this complete by this date, we'll give you a bonus.
Mayor Pro Tem Yingling.
Thank you. Ken, so when the construction starts for those people who live on Parkway or frequently use Parkway, will one lane on one, or will the lanes be on one side closed down and there'll still be traffic through, or will be a detour? How will that work?
We will look at maintaining one lane each direction at all times. We talked about this previously. There are some houses on the south side that have on-street parking. That on-street parking was done by ordinance, the Univest agreement, many, many years ago. That was actually before I came. But they are allowed to park on the street. We have talked about working with those homeowners to try to section off a portion of possibly Andy Brown Park parking to allow them to park such that we can maintain 2 lanes of traffic. That's some of the details that really need to be worked out, because they do park on the street there. It's not 1 or 2, it's almost all of them. So we need to find a way to accommodate that and still maintain 2 lanes of traffic. It's going to be a challenge.
Thank you. Councilmember Mays. Oh, yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, Ken, I couldn't think of a better swan song for you to go out on this one. This has been I know this has been a thorn in your side. Is that the right?
It's been a challenge.
A challenge. Okay. Well, anyway, thank you very much for all your efforts on this. And I think everyone's looking forward to seeing this completed. And with that, I move to approve item number 18.
Second by Councilmember Long. All in favor?
Council members Long, Mays, Yingling, Franklin, and Hill. None opposed. The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you.
It's been an honor.
I think that is the first time you've gotten an applause. In a council meeting, huh? Item 19, consider approval of an award of a professional services contract or agreement with Kimley Horn in the amount of $79,500 to design signage and pavement markings depicting on-street bicycle lanes for Moore Road, Hertz Road, and River Chase Drive, and authorizing the city manager to sign all documents. Welcome, Mr. Elias, Parks Project Manager.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We appreciate the opportunity to come before you tonight and talk about trails. In 2010, the Community-Wide Trail Implementation Plan, as well as the 2015 Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan, recommended on-street bike lanes for Moore Road, Hertz Road, River Chase Drive. The Moore Road Trail is one of the strongest links between the greatest number of neighborhoods and key destinations such as Andrew Brown Park System, the extension of the Cambion Trail, and the future DART rail station. Tonight we bring forward a professional service agreement with Kimberly Horn to design signage and pavement markings depicting on-street bicycle lanes for Moore Road, Hertz Road, River Chase Drive, and Fairway Drive. This is a site map that shows the vicinity of the streets that we're talking about. Again, Hertz Road, kind of in the central portion of Coppell, Moore Road, which goes the entire length, and then we'll be talking about River Chase and Fairway. So as a part of the professional service agreement, each roadway will include the following task. Our consultant will do data collection, base mapping, development, and field observations. They'll do cross-section development and conceptual layouts. They will have meetings with staff to review the concepts. We plan on having meetings with the community as well as with Park Board and City Council. Then once we decide on the concept, they'll move forward with construction documents and we'll prepare to put the project out to bid. And then they will also aid us in the bidding process as well as a couple of construction trips to make sure that it's been installed correctly. So I'm going to go through each street in a little bit more detail, and we'll start with Moore Road. The Moore Road section that we'll be looking at in this project is from the Andrew Brown Park on the north side of town all the way to Beltline Road on the south side of town. This roadway is identified on the Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan as a bike lane facility. We're looking at approximately 10,000 linear feet of street to be designed, and we will be paying particular attention to the following intersections, and that would be Parkway, Stringfellow Drive, Villawood, Sandy Lake Road, Bethel School Road, and Beltline Road. We'll obviously be looking at all of them, but those particular intersections we know we've got to take a hard look at. The next street is Hertz Road. We'll be looking at Hertz Road from Sandy Lake North to Parkway Boulevard. This roadway is also identified in the Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan as a bike lane facility. The roadway is approximately 3,000 linear feet, and we will be paying particular attention to the intersection of Park Valley Drive as well as the entrances and exits for the school. The next section we'll be looking at is River Chase Drive. River Chase Drive from Sandy Lake Road south all the way to MacArthur Boulevard. This roadway as well is identified in the Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan as a bike lane facility. The roadway that we'll be looking at is approximately 7,400 linear feet. On River Chase Drive, there's currently a lane on both sides of River Chase Drive. It's striped off. It's not striped adequately for a bike lane, but it is striped, and there's a dedicated lane there. And so our job will be a little bit easier there. We'll just be looking at making that come into compliance for safety for our bike trails. And then the final street that we'll be looking at is Fairway Drive. And Fairway Drive comes off of River Chase Drive and goes over to Beltline Road. This roadway is not identified in the Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan, but it provides a critical connection to the future Cotton Belt rail line. This roadway is approximately 1,000 linear feet is what we'll be looking at. And those are the four sections. The Parks and Recreation Department is recommending approval of this professional service agreement. And with that, I will answer any questions that Mayor and Council may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We did have this conversation also, maybe a little briefer in work session. Are there any questions or comments from Council? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion. Mayor Pro Tem Yingling.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve item number 19.
Second by Councilmember Mays. All in favor?
Council members Long, Mays, Yingling, Franklin, Hill, none opposed. The motion carries.
Thank you very much, sir. Item 21 is consider approval of a professional. Oh, I'm sorry. You have another one. I just jumped over that one. Sorry about that. Item 20, consider approval of the modifications to the trail implementation plan as recommended by the Parks and Recreation Board and authorizing the city manager to sign all necessary documents.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm still here, and we're still talking trails. So the new DART station in Cypress Waters and the accompanying new alignment of the Cotton Belt Rail Line will impact the master plan trails on the south side of Coppell. The proposed amendments to the 2010 Community-Wide Trails Implementation Plan determine the best alternative routes for future trails, as well as coordinate with the new DART station, DART Cotton Belt Line, and the adjacent communities of Grapevine, Carrollton, and Irving. This is a map from the 2010 Community-Wide Trail Implementation Plan. The areas that we're going to focus on tonight will be along the southern parts of Coppell, and in particular, we'll be looking at the Cotton Belt Line, which is this one. It goes from DFW Airport all the way to Carrollton. So most of the changes we'll be looking at tonight are going to be primarily on the south side of Coppell and in dealing with the Cotton Belt Line. So I'm going to walk through a series of sections that I'll show you the trail sections, and then at the end I'll kind of bring it all back together and I'll show you a map that showed the original proposed Cotton Belt Line, and then I'll show you what we're proposing to change it to at the end. And so it's a little challenging to keep up with as I go through it, so stop me please if I lose you. We're going to be going from Royal Lane and LBJ all the way to Carrollton, and so we got quite a few miles to cover. As a part of the change, each of the projects will have a project sheet as I'm showing here. This will be typical for each section. I'm not going to show you one for each section as we go through, but each one of these, if the change is approved, will go in the appendix of the original trail implementation plan, and each one of them will start with this page. This page gives a trail description, basically where we're going with it. It talks about the connectivity. It gives us evaluation opportunities. It gives us evaluation constraints, and it also lists some opportunities as far as features that could be recommended. It talks about the length of the trail and the widths and that kind of information. Again, this will be typical with each section. When it's approved, this will go into the appendix. Each section will have that. Tonight I'm just going to show you one, and then we're just going to look at the alignment as we move forward. So we're going to start on the west side of town. We're going to start out at the Royal Lane LBJ vicinity. This first change, really, the original Cotton Belt Line went all the way through, right through this section here. The only change that we're going to do in this first section is when we come into the Old Town area, as we come to Coppell Road, we will then go south and go over to Southwestern and go up Southwestern towards Pinkerton Elementary, as well as heading over to the new DART rail line. So that's really the only change, is that Coppell Road will drop south and we'll come up Southwestern. This next section, again, you can see where we're coming up Southwestern and approaching the intersection of Beltline and Denton Tap. We will utilize that intersection to cross Denton Tap with the traffic light. We will then be on the south side of Beltline. We'll come to the intersection of Sanders Loop. At Sanders Loop, we will go south. What we're trying to do here is get on the south side of the proposed DART rail line. This blue line here indicates the proposed realignment of the DART rail. And at this point, somewhere right in here, the rail line will go above ground and will be elevated at that point. And so the reason we're coming down Sanders Loop is so that we can go underneath the elevated portion of it and get on the south side. And then from the south side, the trail will go on to the Billingsley property. And at a certain point right in through here somewhere, then it will be built by others, not by Coppell. So this section is pretty much the entire part of the Cotton Belt Trail here will be built by others. This section is actually in Dallas. Dallas County and the city of Dallas have asked us to go ahead and show this on our master plan just so that we can be coordinating with them. Dallas County and the Billingsleys and the city of Dallas are already in communications on installing this section of trail right here. So we're showing it on our master plan. This will be built by others. This won't be built by Coppell. The other things that I would point out on this section is in our previous plan, we had planned on coming down the Cotton Belt line, coming through Grapevine Creek Park, and then continuing on up the Cotton Belt line. With the changes of the new alignment of the Cotton Belt line, we have backed out of doing a trail through Grapevine Creek. We'll probably look at doing soft trails in there, but we will not try to extend the Cotton Belt through there. Reason being is we're going to have a trail on the south side. This bridge right here will be built as a part of that. We would have to do a pretty major bridge on this side, and so we're abandoning going through Grapevine Creek with hard surface trails. We'll do soft trails in there, and then our Cottonwood extension again will run along the Dart rail line. As we get to the eastern portion of the Dallas property and start getting close to Irving, that's actually where our Cambion Trail extension is being constructed right now. And so as we come off of the Billingsley property, we will then get on the Cambion Trail and follow that over to the east side of MacArthur Boulevard. What we're trying to do there is we're trying to stay out of the intersection of MacArthur and Beltline. There's just a lot of activity there between the rail line and the busyness of the street. So with the extension of the Cambion, we've got a way to get around that intersection and still be able to tie into the Cotton Belt line.
Excuse me, since you said to are you looking at that intersection right there more because we just talked about the trail coming down there, that's some kind of a crossing across Beltline to get to the south side then?
Absolutely. We'll use the traffic light there to cross, and we'll work with traffic and engineering to determine what kind of devices will be there, but we'll definitely utilize the traffic light.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So on this section, there's really just one minor change, and it really doesn't have much to do with the Cotton Belt. On our original plan, we were going to do a trail. This is what we call the Encore Overhead Power Line Corridor. This is MacArthur Boulevard right here. We had a trail that was going to come down through here and tie into the Cotton Belt. It was also going to extend down this lane here going over to Mockingbird. Encore has decided that they do not want a trail going under that particular section. They're still good with the section on this side, and so we'll leave that on our master plan. In time, as we develop the MacArthur Boulevard Trail, this could be utilized to get back to the new DART station on the Billingsley property. If you were riding down MacArthur Boulevard, you could come down the trail section here and go back to the west to get to the new DART station. That would all be down the line a little bit, but we wanted to leave that on the plan. And then this is the last section, and actually we talked a little bit about this with one of Marcy's projects. We were talking about this property right in here, but you can see here where this is where the Cambion will come underneath MacArthur Boulevard and come down. We already have these easements in place, and in fact, the trail is built, as Marcy said previously, the trail is built halfway up through here, and it is installed out here along Beltline, and from what was just done earlier in the evening, this section here will be installed by that developer as well. What we're trying to do here is we're utilizing the cotton belt as it comes down the Cambion. We'll come back up through here and get back up to the Dart rail alignment at Fairway. That's also why we included Fairway on the study with Moore Road, this section right here. And then the last section, there's really no changes to it. There's some challenges to it as we go east, heading towards Carrollton. We're just showing it on the entire street. It could be on both sides right now. Dart and everybody is on board with it being on the north side, but that's why we kind of have the whole area highlighted. We anticipate it to be on the north side. Okay, and so what I'm going to show now is kind of a before and after map. This is what the original trails would have looked like. I couldn't fit all the way to the west side, so if you can recall coming from the west side out at Royal and LBJ, we really just had one minor change, and that was at Coppell Road dropping down the southwestern. The rest of the changes are all going to be around the Billingsley property and coming through the middle here. This is the Encore one that we just talked about that we're no longer going to have. And this is how the Cambion we thought was going to be extended. And so and this one shows the changes that we're bringing forward. So we're coming through the Billingsley property. We're getting on the Cambion. We're going down the Cambion to get on the other side of MacArthur Boulevard. And then we'll cut back up and get over to the Dart Rail on the east side of town. And then these were the other trails that we just put these on the master plan. The one we're moving forward with Fairway, and then this one will be future. So with that, I'll answer any questions you might have.
Mayor Pro Tem Yingling.
Thank you, Mayor. So could you tell me, John, how many miles does this add on to our trail system? Approximately.
I would just be guessing because we don't have this is kind of just a high level of where it will go.
Okay.
I'm going to guess we're probably looking at 3 or 4 miles at least if from one end to the other, depending on how we route through the Billingsley property and whatnot.
And just more so of connectivity.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can say that the Cambion extension is about 2 miles by itself.
Okay. Which will provide us with a plethora of miles of connectivity.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Sure.
Any other questions? My only comment is that Encore, the light blue piece right there that connects Beltline and then up to MacArthur, I guess.
Yes.
The north half of that is swampland.
It is. I didn't say it was going to be easy, but they will allow us to do that. We would have, if we do decide to put a trail in there, it will take some engineering and planning to figure out how to do it, but it could be done.
It just sounds expensive.
We'll see.
We'll look at it when it comes to that time. Okay. There is a item before us. Is there a motion? Councilmember Mays.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve item number 20.
Second by Councilmember Hill. All in favor?
Council members Long, Mays, Yingling, Franklin, Hill. None opposed. The motion carries.
Thank you very much. Now it's item 21. Consider approval of professional services agreement between the City of Coppell and Future IQ for professional facilitation services for the Vision 2040 strategic plan and authorizing the city manager to sign. And we have Tracy Leach here from who is the deputy city manager with this item. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. So I am pleased to be here today to talk to you guys about our 2040 strategic plan. So I have a couple objectives for this presentation. So first, I want to make sure that I bring you guys up to speed on everything that has happened since the Citizen Summit in September. And then talk in general terms about kind of what we can expect to see from Future IQ, and then answer any questions that you guys might have. So the first thing is we'll just kind of walk through the timeline. So I'm passing out a hard copy to you guys as well. So we had the Citizen Summit in September 21st, and that was the purpose of that was just to kind of prime the community, to get them to start thinking about the future and get them future-oriented for what is coming up in terms of the brainstorming and the focus group sessions and the thinking that's going to go on during this strategic planning process. Essentially, immediately after the Citizen Summit, we began preparations to develop the RFP that would go out for the professional facilitation services that would take us then from the Citizen Summit through the rest of the public participation process, as well as the drafting of the plan itself. And so we put that RFP out on the street in October. And those RFPs were due in November, and we had a single respondent for that first effort. What we did was pretty much called all of the folks who had accessed the RFP on BidSync and touched base with them to kind of find out why, if there were specific reasons why they did not submit a proposal. And there were a number of firms that we reached out to specifically because we knew this is right in their wheelhouse. So a little bit of the feedback that we got, we amended the RFP. So things like everything from, timing around the holidays to just timing for individual firms just based on what their workload was at the time we got feedback that some of the language was too broad, and so it was difficult for them to kind of quantify what we were asking. And then we actually got some feedback that our language was too specific, and so we did that dance to make the amended language both broader and more specific to address some of those concerns. And so after the first of the year, we issued the second RFP solicitation. After if you'll recall back for your council retreat in January, I got some feedback from the council in terms of priorities and vision and kind of process, things that were going to be important to you all. And so that week, immediately after that, we had a pre-proposal meeting in which we had about 15 or 16 firms attend either in person or call in on our conference call line. And so the second RFP was due in February, and we had 8 proposals. All of them were good proposals. We brought in 4 firms of the top 4 that were rated by our evaluation team, and we had selected Future IQ as the top firm. And so that kind of brings us to today. And so we'll walk through maybe just a little bit. Do you guys have any questions about process up to this point before I jump into kind of describing a little bit about how Future IQ is going to walk us through the visioning process? Okay. So Future IQ was a standout amongst the proposals that we received in terms of their future orientation. And so this is an area that we heard as staff was going to be important to council. It'll be important to our community. We have a very highly educated community that's got high expectations, and they're going to expect the city to be anticipating some of the things and changes that they're seeing around them. So Future IQ, their process, their whole methodology is it's data-driven. It is citizen-driven. So every stage of this process will be driven by citizen input. And it's transparent so that participants and non-participants alike will be able to access information on the web, that they will be able to kind of track the progress and actually see where those discussions that are happening with the community groups, the focus groups, the think tanks, all of those discussions, people will be able to literally track that through the data mapping tools that Future IQ has. All that is, it's you can create your own reports and kind of filter that based on what you want to see. And so their process is chopped into 4 phases. So the first phase for us is going to be kind of the initial planning and background research. And so that's where we'll kind of jump into immediately after, assuming that council approves the contract, we will start that process pretty much right immediately. And so that will be our opportunity to have detailed discussions with Future IQ about nailing down process, about nailing down schedule, about nailing down kind of what our roles are going to be as staff, and then what kind of our expectations are going to be for them moving forward as it relates to citizen engagement and getting input from and participation from our community. So then that will move into kind of phase 2, and that is this where kind of the council staff, the executive committee will be heavily engaged. This is where we'll have a lot of the discussions about really shaping what the discussions about what the future is going to be. The heavy community and stakeholder engagement process will begin pretty much right following that phase. One of the things we're gonna want to talk to Future IQ about is scheduling. So the way we're trending right now, a lot of that heavy citizen participation is really going to fall right in summer break. And so we want to make sure that we are not planning a lot of those kinds of activities right in the middle of summer when we've got a lot of people traveling. And so we won't be taking literally the 3 months off, but we will make sure that we can get as much participation from the community as possible. So we're going to talk about timing on when we can best schedule those so that we can meet the needs of, and the schedules for the people that we're trying to reach. So we move into phase 3, and so that is after the heavy citizen engagement component, we will reconvene kind of the executive committee. They will end up then breaking into separate focus groups that will massage and clarify and finalize the vision for the community. And then we'll move into phase 4, which is essentially Future IQ taking all that information and putting it in a format that is a report that they will be bringing to the community and to the council for your review. And so we've got a lot of, at every phase, citizen participation is going to drive those processes. So at this point, start to finish, we're looking about 12 months. And the proposal as it's presented to you today is within the budget that we've got allocated. So at that point, I will any questions that you all might have about how we're going to move forward, how we're proposing to move forward.
Councilmember Mays.
Thank you, Mayor. Tracy, you were talking about the next steps. The executive committee would meet and they'd break up into subcommittees. Would that be similar to what was done back in September with the first Citizen Summit, or would it be much more focused?
It would be much more focused, and that's part of what we are really, that Future IQ is going to be able to bring to the table, is keep those discussions focused. So there's really kind of 2 parts on the citizen engagement. So on the front end, so what we're kind of calling phase 2, is where we're having kind of the broader discussions about general ideas about the future, talking about different scenarios in the context of both things that are very unique to Coppell, and then things that we are seeing in terms of trends, and a lot of things that we talked about in the retreat, trends that are impacting Coppell. And so talking about those in a broader sense so that we can get an idea of scenarios, of several different scenarios for the future. So if we said Coppell in 2040 is going to look like this or this or this or this, all based on the citizen participation and input that we're getting from the participants. That's the real focus of kind of the phase 2. And then the phase 3 is where that executive steering committee and the more focused, as we split them apart, they will take all of that information that has been developed by the larger community and kind of massage that and finalize that into a plan that will then be finalized by Future IQ. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem Yingling.
Thank you. Really quick question.
Sure.
You said 12 months. Is that 12 months from when we started or 12 months from now?
12 months from approval of this contract.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Long.
Thank you, Mayor. Being the old accounting type that I am, I always look for numbers.
Yes, sir.
And I didn't see any number on the memo that you provided, but I did find the number back in the back.
Okay.
So the $146,500 is a fixed cost.
Yes, based on the scope that
arrangement
you see here presented.
Okay,
Now, if we ask for 30 more public meetings, that's then something we'll negotiate with them. But as it's presented here, yes.
Okay,
firm cost.
we're used to that sort of stuff and working with Ken Griffin. There's always Amendment 1, Amendment 2, Amendment 3. We understand that, but we're going to start at 146.5.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Franklin.
No, I really like the role that you've outlined for Future IQ and keeping everyone on task all along the way. I really like the critical path. It seems tight but realistic. And I think that the numbers at 146, that's pretty consistent with what we've talked about. I think it was below 150, I think.
Yes, sir.
So I think it's fine, and I'd love to make a motion.
Go for it.
Move to approve item 21. Thanks.
Second by Councilmember Long. All in favor?
Councilmembers Long, Mays, Yingling, Franklin, Hill. None opposed. The motion carries.
Thank you. And thank you.
Thank you.
Just remember to put in there along the way updates to council.
Yes, ma'am. We will do so.
Thank you. Okay, item number 22. It is a citizen's agenda request. The agenda item is issues with, number 1, making both lanes right turn only, thus preventing citizens from turning left onto Parkway to return home from school and causing traffic hazard by compelling these citizens to make a right or then make a U-turn. And number 2, inquiring into the functionality of said traffic control device since its installation. Mr. Venkatranam, please come forward. And again, your name and address for the record.
Yeah, my name is Venki Venkatraman, 415 Gifford Drive, Coppell. So what are the terms and conditions of this presentation?
Is your presentation.
Is there a time limit?
There is no specific time limit, but hope that it's, maybe 20 minutes or so.
Probably be 5 minutes.
Okay.
Right. And before I proceed, I want to make, since I have all this time in front of me and I just need 5 minutes, I got to really give you some feedback regarding the prior presentation.
No, you have to stick to this. Because of the Open Meetings Act, we can only discuss the items that are on the agenda. So you need to stick with the item that is on the agenda.
I'm going to stick to the items on the agenda. Okay. I have a general observation regarding how these meetings are conducted. Is that something
That is something that you would have to bring to a citizen's appearance at a later date.
Obviously, I'm not satisfied, but I'll proceed.
I'm sorry that we have to stick to the agenda items, and that's all we can discuss or contemplate.
Oh, that's fine. I don't have that much. This shouldn't take that long. So, just with respect to whatever happened to the agenda, I don't have a copy. But the first item, I believe, is with respect to the turn signal. And the turn signal issue is essentially to describe the situation is the fact that there is a traffic signal at the intersection of Cowboy and Parkway, and that signal essentially coming back from Cowboy onto Parkway at a certain time of day in the morning seemingly doesn't allow a left turn at certain times. So effectively, if you live west of Cowboy and you come east and get into the school and you want to return at that time, you're prevented from making a left turn. You got to make a right turn and then turn back, make a U-turn probably at the next potential location, which is into the Walgreens, towards Walgreens, and you from there, or towards Denton Tap Road. And obviously, I have never seen ever any traffic light which prevents you within 5 minutes from returning back in the direction from which you came from. And the inquiry I made, and which I displayed earlier, is the inquiry to the traffic engineer, who confirmed that there is indeed no other signal in Coppell where you're not allowed to turn back the way you came from. And in my experience of living over 30 years in different cities, I've never come across one single signal where it says you can't go back the way you came from. So that's the fact that it is indeed an anomaly to have such a signal that prevents someone who's come from one direction to return back in the same direction without making a U-turn and technically, I understand the reason for having that type of a signal. It's right outside the school. I have a daughter who goes to that school, so I'm concerned about the safety of the students. So previously, the signal itself is seemingly only a year and a half old, and prior to the existence of the signal, periodically during peak times, there used to be a policeman, a couple of policemen who come there and guide the traffic and stop traffics going either way to let children cross. That signal is supposedly replacing the policeman, except that the signal is not built with any intelligence. So whether anybody is crossing or not crossing, the signal just prevents people for an entire 1.5 hour period from making that turn, even if there's not a single person crossing that, crossing that road across Parkway. So the cars are forced to make a right turn anyways. That makes absolutely no sense. There are so many different ways that can be done. And one of the simplest ways, which I saw today when coming back from SMU, where I attend some classes, is that the crosswalks have got a button. You press a button and there's a flashing light that comes on across the crosswalk, and that all traffic comes to a stop. At that time, people cross. I crossed, just like I did going and coming. Simple way to do what it is the signal tries to do. When someone's crossing, anytime someone's crossing, you just hit the button, the lights flash right away, and the people can cross. And then once they're finished crossing, the lights stop flashing and the cars proceed. It's not very complicated. We could have had one such signal there, one such cross signal, instead of this type of a fixed no left turn situation, which essentially means for an hour and a half, every single car, whether there's anybody crossing or not, forces you to make a right and then make a U and so on. And the solution I propose may not be the only one. There may be a lot of different ways to solve this problem other than the way it has been done. So clearly somebody messed up. That's not the only solution that's available to take care of the safety of the students when they cross. So when there's nobody's crossing, it makes no sense to stop cars from making the left turn. So that's the first part of my presentation. And so with respect to the second part, it's just the fact that on the day I made that turn, I don't know whether I did not really notice that signal at all. So my belief is there was nothing that told me I can't make a left, but I'm not entirely sure. That's my belief. And so what I did, I made that turn on receipt of the ticket. I filed an open records request with the city, and I got this information. And this is I believe you guys have got a copy of this. And So what it says is that on that particular day, which is, I believe, September 9th of last year, within a 30-minute period, 10 citations were handed out for that turn. That means 10 people turned at that signal going left, and including me. And all of us were given a citation, a ticket. So this is, irrespective of whether that signal is justified or not, whether it was working properly or not on that day is the other question. And so when I filed the open records request and requested the information as to how many tickets were actually handed out at this signal, it turned out that, based on this information that you see in front of you, 28 tickets had been handed out during the entire life of that signal, and of which 10 of them were handed out during a 30-minute period, meaning that on an average, one per month were handed out for about 18 months. And because I believe that signal was a year and a half old. And within a span of 30 minutes, 10 tickets were handed out. So as anybody who knows some basic arithmetic, it'll at least be curious what was different during those 30 minutes that 10 people turned left right in front of the policeman and picked up a ticket, including myself. Either people are real stupid in Coppell, they're morons who don't know, can't see a cop when he's sitting in front of them, or maybe there's some issue with the signal that needs to be investigated to find out whether something was going on with that signal, to find out and report to the public that maybe you have a defective signal that creates issues and sometimes doesn't work as it's supposed to. And so that's my second item. Issue number one is to look at the possibility of replacing that signal with something like a crosswalk signal that I just mentioned, which will do the exact same function of protecting people crossing the crossing parkway, essentially to cross parkway while people are turning left. All right, maybe you can have one on the other side as well. And as opposed to a permanent prohibition on making a turn for an entire 1.5 period. And the second one is, on that particular day, was there an issue with the signal? I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Right.
Okay, we'll turn it over to, are you available for questions if the council has questions?
Right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to take a seat, and we'll, if the council has a question, they'll ask you to come back up.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to turn this over to the council for discussion or questions. Councilmember Mace.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to request that George Marshall come forward, please.
Sir.
George, are there any traffic devices besides traffic lights that can prevent a vehicle from turning back onto the way that it originally was headed?
So are you asking if, like, I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
Describe the function of a hooded turn lane.
So a hooded turn lane in front of, say, the Wendy's driveway on Denton Tap, that restricts movements. So somebody driving northbound on Denton Tap can't turn left to go westbound or they can turn left. What they can't do is cross from one shopping center to another shopping center.
And what about a divided highway or a divided street?
That definitely restricts the movements from you can only make certain U-turns at certain locations. So that definitely restricts movements.
So what was the process that was followed to decide to put this traffic light at this intersection?
Sure. So traffic going into the high school has been a problem for many years. And we have a heavy westbound movement trying to turn left into the school. We do have pedestrians crossing Parkway as well as crossing Parkway or Cowboy Boulevard. Basically, for several years, the police department was out there directing traffic during the peak hour movement in the morning. And after a request from the police department, we investigated whether or not we could even put in a traffic signal at that location. Looking back in the city's files, the city actually considered putting in a traffic light in the late 90s when we installed the traffic light at Parkway and MacArthur. So we looked at the operation of how the police department was operating that intersection during that peak morning, and they were specifically directing cars that were trying to turn left out of Cowboy to force them to go right. And so they would either make a U-turn or find a different route to get home. That movement seemed to work really well, and so what we did is we incorporated that in with a changeable lane use sign. We have a changeable lane use sign on Denton Tap at Parkway in the northbound direction, and we basically convert one lane from a northbound through to a northbound left. After talking with the design engineer, they thought that might be a good use at this location to basically restrict the movement in the morning so that everybody had to turn right coming out of Cowboy. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah. What kind of study was done by that consultant to let them arrive at that decision?
Sure. So we did a feasibility study. One of the biggest concerns was the proximity to Denton Tap. Could we even fit a signal in and not cause backups out to Denton Tap? And that was the initial concern. So we evaluated that. There was traffic counts taken at the intersection, and we evaluated if a signal was necessary at that location.
What are some of the requirements that would allow you to put a signal in at an intersection?
There's at least 8. I think the MUTCD calls for at least 12 warrants. So the Texas Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices covers the various warrants that might cause a traffic signal to be warranted. There's side street traffic volume. There's the through traffic volume. So Parkway Boulevard might be your through traffic. There's also pedestrian volume. There's proximity to other facilities like railroad crossings or other things. And then at the end of the day, there's also engineering judgment. And sometimes a manual can't cover everything in particular.
Is it a trivial thing to put a light in at an intersection like this, or is it fairly onerous on us as a city?
It's a hard decision. I mean, traffic signals cost money. They can cause additional delay for drivers. You have to evaluate whether or not it's in the best interest of the community to put in a traffic light. While they might prevent certain types of crashes, they might also increase other types of crashes.
Were there any other techniques considered other than a light like this before the decision was made to go forward?
So because of the various movements, a traffic signal would be the only type of electronic device to direct that traffic movement in the intersection.
I suppose we could have put in a divided roadway there, but it would have been a little bit of a engineering undertaking.
Yes, maybe even there's potential for maybe a roundabout if you had the right of way. That location we don't have the right of way.
I hate those anyway. All right, thank you very much.
Councilmember Franklin.
Mr. Marshall, just a couple of very quick questions.
Yes, sir.
A couple of things I heard about potential to replace the signal, and the other was on that particular day where there were a lot of tickets issued, was there an issue with the light? And so I'd like to, if you could, go back to the second part of that first. Was there any malfunctioning of the light in question on that day?
So, since the signal was installed, we never had any complaints or concerns about the operation of the changeable lane use sign. There is not technically a device there that monitors that, but in my experience, normally a police officer will verify if something is operating in a certain manner before they go start issuing tickets. And the way that signal operates is once it turns on, it stays on for a duration of time. It's based on time of day. So it comes on at a certain time, and then it goes off at a certain time. So as long as it was during that time frame, it would function.
So that being the case, so it would either be that the officer would have observed it or citizens would have been complaining about it all this time, and you've not seen any of that?
Correct.
Okay. So then that gets to the first question, which was, if that's true, why would one want to replace the signal? And I wouldn't think so, but you're the professional here, so.
I'll be honest, since we put in that signal, since we've optimized some timing in the area, I really feel like the traffic issues getting into the school have helped. It's helped the situation. Mm-hmm. We're not seeing the backup to Denton Tap, so I wouldn't recommend removing the signal and replacing it with something else at this point.
So to Mr. Mays' Councilmember Mays' point, the things that have been done with respect to the studies and the ultimate installation of the light, it's worked out pretty much exactly how it was intended. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Yingling.
Thank you. Mr. Marshall, I did that turn for 8 years. I had both my kids go through the school there. Before the light was there, there were signs there that were both right turns at the sort. That drives me. Anyways, so at the catches me. The signs were there that you could only turn right double lanes at a certain time of the day as well, correct?
Man, that's looking back a year and a half ago.
Well, I think it was because I always turned right and then did the left. It took me, a few more seconds to go left, right by Walgreens to go. So, but there were, I believe, we need those historical people here that that you would have to turn right. So it's been there for a while. From my experience, what my question was there a time frame on the
time
times
restriction?
That you could go? Because I did have to go right,
okay.
Even though I live in the same neighborhood as Mr. Vinkentranen, so.
Like the only time that the restriction was in place was when the police officer was directing traffic.
Okay.
But I could be wrong.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
If you don't mind, just following back with Mr. Franklin's comments, he asked if we wanted to replace anything. If I actually would like to make some minor modifications to the intersection to make it more clear during that certain time of day that a left turn is not necessary or not allowed. That would be replacing the red ball and the green ball and the yellow with arrows. That basically kind of identifies it's a red arrow, you can't turn left at this point in time, but a green arrow going to the right would pop up. That would be a modification I would like to do. We would probably do that over the summertime time frame. But that wouldn't change the operation of the signal.
But you think that might make it more clear?
Absolutely.
My only comment on this is the time of year that those 10 tickets were made, right at the beginning of the school year. Is that typical for the police officers to be more present at the beginning of the school year to reinforce?
Absolutely. Yeah, they're typically out there to help remind drivers. I mentioned earlier the changeable lane use sign on Denton Tap that creates at Denton Tap and Parkway that creates an additional left turn bay. They're also there at that intersection during that school. That's only on school days as well. So they're at both those intersections trying to reinforce those turning movement restrictions.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Hill.
Mr. Marshall, I have a question for you. So as you're coming out Cowboys Drive and supposed to make the 2 right-hand turns, that helps the traffic come through out of the high school. And if we dedicated one to a left-hand turn lane, then we'd have a huge stack there. Or if we let that light run along a lot longer and had a left-hand lane, then there's danger of stacking all the way back to Denton Tap. Is that
correct? So when by making the right turn only restriction, we're also allowed to do an overlap, we call it, where basically the westbound can then turn left into the school at the same time they're turning right leaving the school. And so that basically allows us to optimize the signal. The other thing is when you allow a left turn at that location, because of the volume of pedestrians crossing the intersection, that puts the left turn movement in a conflict with the pedestrians crossing Parkway Boulevard.
okay? So if we did have that turn lane, we would have backups northbound on Denton Tap and potentially westbound coming on Parkway.
Absolutely. The backups would happen all the way from Cowboy through the intersection of Parkway and Denton Tap. They'd extend along Parkway, and also the northbound Denton Tap movement would also be backed up.
Thank you.
Councilmember Mays.
So, something you said earlier kind of intrigued me with the directional arrows. So you would have one red left turn arrow and two green right turn arrows during the period, I guess, in the morning or evening.
Exactly, during that morning peak.
What would you do for the non-school times?
That would allow both green arrows to pop up, because from that lane you can actually turn left or right.
So you'd have a left green as well as a right green?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Or possibly, or maybe just a green ball, during that time frame.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Our opportunities here are take action or no action.
Is that an option to comment further based on what I heard?
Council, are you willing to? Yes, sir. Hmm?
All right, so I want to quote from George Marshall. I didn't even realize he was that gentleman. He sent me an email to a question asked, was a traffic study done before the signal was installed? And his answer was, as you can see here, a detailed traffic study was not performed. However, engineering judgment was used to make the decision to install the traffic signal. I don't even know what that means. I mean, if we didn't do a traffic study, it's all anecdotal. I mean, if he's an engineer, just saying I had an engineering judgment and we put a traffic signal in makes absolutely no sense. So I don't believe any traffic study was done. So that's what it's in his words of George Marshall himself. So if you put I would suggest that you actually do a traffic study before you come to the conclusion that it's actually needed. The other point I wanted to make was Councilwoman Yingling said that years ago she said she was not allowed to make the turn. That's not true. That signal has been in place only for a year and a half. Prior to that, there was no signal. There was only a policeman. So effectively, there could not have been. I don't know if you're referring to 3-4 years ago. There wasn't any signal. I've been living in that neighborhood since 2002. There was no signal there till a year and a half prior to September of last year. And I specifically asked, that was one of the questions I asked to find out when did that signal come into place, right? So there was no signal. So the other thing I wanted to find out from what I just heard is that the question you asked, Mayor, was that seems to be working as it was intended, or something to that effect. And the question that you mentioned that probably there was more enforcement because it was the beginning of the school year, right? Now, the signal was in place a year and a half prior to September of last year. That it was in place the beginning of the prior school year as well. So if the logic that maybe there was enforcement because it was the beginning of the school year, there should have been a huge number of tickets issued September of 2016, because the signal was in place at that time as well. So that really is not the explanation for why so many tickets might have been handed out within 30 minutes in September of last year.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. So we go back to there are options. We can either take some action or direct the staff to do something, or we can take no action at this time. So is there anyone who would like to take action? Okay, so we will move forward with no action. The item 23 is City Manager's Report, project updates and future agendas.
Mayor, this evening during the work session, we had a discussion or had an item dealing with the bike share program. And so that will be moved to the April 10th. We also had an item that had to do with the refurbishment, if you will, of Water Tower 1. That'll be on the April 10th agenda. And then earlier this evening, we had comments from citizens regarding the Airbnb VRBO. And based on earlier discussions last week, we had already planned on having a presentation on April 10th as well. So that's some future work session items that we'll be having. In terms of just future activity on April, I believe beginning April the 9th, along Sandy Lake Road from the east property city limits to MacArthur, we will be conducting crack and seal work at night. So that work will be going on. And then, as many of you know, Beltline did start their work as far as with the county and the overlay, the asphalt overlay. Obviously, with the rain, there is some delay. That work will take about 3 weeks to complete. Once that is complete, Royal will begin, and that will also be about a 3-week job. Just remember that Royal is from Sandy Lake all the way to 635, whereas the work that's happening on Beltline is just from East Beltline south to 635 to Hackberry. And then lastly, currently right now, Freeport is expected to begin construction on April 9th. When I say begin construction, that's actually the mobilization for the project. The actual work itself will take some time after that. Between now and April 9th, meetings are scheduled to be held with, and notices are being sent out to the businesses in the area so that they'll start getting that word out. We met with Uline today, and so even though it's been in the newspaper and we've been advertising it and letting people know, Uline folks didn't know that that was happening, and they mainly use Royal, so they were glad that we're going to be doing the overlay, but they knew that that was going to be doing some rerouting of traffic along Freeport with that work. Mayor, that's all I have to report.
Thank you very much. Item 24, Mayor and Council reports. I have some reports about some spring activities. The Coppell Chamber of Commerce is hosting the 35th Annual Coppell Community Gala on April 14th at the Courtyard and Town Place Suites that's in Grapevine, and everyone is welcome. This is a community party, so I do hope that you will grab your neighbors and your friends and get a table, and it's dancing and silent auction and live auction, and it's always a great event. So I hope that many will come. Teen volunteers are needed for the library this summer. This program is open to Coppell residents from 12 to 17. Applications are available Monday through Monday, April 16th. Positions are limited. So please visit the library's website for further details. And then one more brag. We are excited that Coppell has been named the best place to live in Texas by Niche.com. The website analyzes public data from the U.S. Census Bureau, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the Internal Revenue Service, and other sources to rate Coppell and other Texas cities on higher education, crime and safety, health, fitness, cost of living, and numerous other factors. Coppell also was named second place in the best place to raise a family, and in the category of best schools in Texas, it was fourth. So we're, as we believe we are number one in all categories, it's nice to get this recognition. Somebody asked me, well, all you have to do is pay for that. Well, this came unsolicited. They have their own criteria. We did not pay for this. It was a study based on their public data analytics. So we're pretty excited about that. There is the upcoming mayor and council elections. The last day to register to vote in the May 5th election is April 5th, 30 days before. Early voting will start on April 23rd, and that is early voting by personal appearance, and that will be here at Town Center or anywhere that you are registered in the county. All Coppell residents will vote at Coppell Town Center on Election Day. We also, shortly thereafter, the March primary runoffs will be May 22nd, and check with your registration or the city's website, county registration or the city website for more specific information on that. And I believe the early voting for that starts on May 5th. So we might have a lot of people come. 14th. May 14th? Thank you. Thank you. There are a lot more events and a lot more information that can be found on the city website, and that's coppelltx.gov. So city council reports. Item A is the North Texas Council of Governments. Mayor Pro Tem Yingling.
Thank you, Mayor. As we all know, the North Central Texas Council of Governments covers a wide range of topics, so I'm not going to cover everything they go over. I'm just going to highlight a few things. Recently, the COG Emergency Preparedness Planning Council submitted its State Homeland Security Program grant request that is appropriated by the Department of Homeland Security and is designed to enhance the ability of local governments to prevent, protect against, and respond to and recover from terrorist attacks and other disasters in the region. The total allocation estimate for 2018 amount was $1,824,326.78 approximately. 25% of that requested amount is going to law enforcement, and some of the other allocations are going to regional training and exercise programs, interoperable communications, and hazmat training, just to name a few of many things. Also, the transportation group is they're having a bunch of public meetings to learn about transportation in the region to help with future priorities. The Regional Transportation Council, together serving as a metropolitan planning organization for the DFW area since 1974. They're looking for public input, so the 3 meetings are scheduled Monday, April 9th at 6 p.m. at the Garland Police Administration Building, Tuesday, April 10th at 6 p.m. at the North Richland Hills Public Library, and then Wednesday, April 11th, 2:30 p.m. at the COG offices, which are in Arlington. You can get all that information on their website. Also, the Arlington meeting will be live streamed. If you would like to attend and can't, it'll be at nctcog.org//video. So if you want to check that out and can't make it, they're going to talk about Mobility 2045, their plans for the future, their work program modifications, the 2019 to 2022 Transportation Involvement Program, the air quality update as it relates to transportation, regional bicycle option survey results. So again, you can check all this information out on their website, which is www.nctcog.org. They also, COG is seeking nominations for the 2018-19 Executive Board and the 2018 Regional Awards. The Executive Board nominations deadline is May 1st, and the Regional Award nominations are May 8th. There's downloadable forms on their website. The COG Annual General Assembly meeting, I know some people have attended in the past, will be held on Friday, June 15th, so you may want to put that as a save the date on your calendar, again at the Hearst Conference Center. So registration will begin online in May. That's all I have.
Thank you. North Texas Commission, Councilmember Franklin.
Thank you, Mayor Hunt. Very briefly, 2 events coming up with the North Texas Commission. One is sponsored by Fidelity. It's part of the North Texas Commission Speaker Series, To the Point, regarding health, hunger, and housing. and the speakers there. And this will be Monday, April 30th at the Hyatt Regency at the DFW Airport. A couple of interesting speakers. It'll be Tricia Cunningham from the North Texas Food Bank, Ray Sy from the Children's Health System of Texas, and Beth Van Dyne, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. So that'll be an interesting event. And then the second is just as a save the date, North Texas Commission's annual members luncheon on the 18th of September. So if we could all save that date, or at least you all can save that date, that'd be great. Just as an aside, and it's not on here, there's the key holders breakfast for Metro Crest is this Thursday on the 29th. So hopefully everybody will attend that. Thanks.
Thank you. Item C, Historical Society. Councilmember Long.
Thank you, Mayor. As we all know now, the city owns the old Wilson estate property minus one lot. There's been no change as far as the Historical Society is concerned. You know, they're still doing their meetings and fixing the places up and keeping them in good order and clean. But now that the city actually owns the property, we're sort of in the process of developing some rules and regulations and things that we want to do, that we want to work together. The society wants that as well as the city, because we don't want to be stepping on each other's feet, and they don't want to do anything that the city would consider inappropriate. So we're working toward the goal of getting something in writing so that everyone's clear on what the rules, regulations are, who's going to be involved with maintenance and other things, security, those kinds of things. So they're active, hopefully active in doing that. I think that, as I recall, Mike said that the parks have sort of taken the reins on working with them to get that accomplished. Okay. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Public service announcements. We did want to emphasize, we did miss two events. One was the Metro Crest key holder, and it's at Crown Plaza, right? Crown Plaza, Thursday the 29th at 7:15. 7:15. They usually are very good and prompt about making sure we're out of there by 9. So it's a great event supporting Metro Crest services. And then March 31st, this Saturday, at Andy Brown East is the Extravaganza. So that starts at 10 o'clock. And so if you're used to going to Wagon Wheel, note that it's at Andy Brown East, and we will be on the Grand Lawn, so it will be awesome. I'm sure it will be a great event. And
what's the start time?
10 o'clock.
And what's the completion time?
10:02. Don't be late. Don't be late. They do stagger the times for the kids to grab their eggs and candy and that type of stuff. But if you have the little ones, they typically start right at 10 o'clock. So there are other things to do as well, but don't be late because you will walk away with nothing. And give yourself lots of time to get there. It is a very popular event. Okay. Any other items? Community interest items? No? Okay. No action necessary from executive session. So the time is 10:42. We are adjourned. Jam-packed.
Hey, you got out of here sooner than I thought.
Meeting. It was like 10:15. That's like